All right, let's get to our next discussion now. Since Nigeria first discovered oil in the small town of Oloibiri in Bayelsa State in 1956, the country has since then depended on the petrodollar to run her economy and sustain governance. More than 60 years later, the oil and gas industry is still riddled with a lot of challenges. Prominent among these challenges now is oil theft in the Niger Delta, and that is bleeding the nation's purse. These are pointers to the fact that there is need for a serious reform in the oil sector beyond the passage of the PIA. In a bid to offer a blueprint to solving these problems, a leading figure in the oil and gas industry, former NLNG boss Godwin Ihetu, published his book titled From Oloibiri to Bonny. He's also the former managing director, Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas. Mr. Godwin Ihetu joins us right here in the studio. It's nice to join us. They say once an MD, always an MD.
if you say so,
fine.
if only I'll be getting the salary, not pension.
You know? All right, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Well, you've been in this industry for a long time, and you've written a book as well. But I'd like you to, from Oloibiri to, it's like saying from the beginning to where we are right now. I've not read the book, but I believe that's what it is. How has the oil industry changed over the years, on the decades that you have seen?
Well, the oil industry, we can say, started with mainly international oil companies investing, prospecting, and of course Shell was the primary one. At one point, Shell had the entire Niger Delta as their license lease area. But of course, with time, the government had to reduce the acreage. And that, of course, led to the first discovery, which they made in Oloibiri. But that wasn't the first oil field drilled. They had drilled a number, particularly in the present Imo State, and there were some gas shows. There was even a gas explosion in one of the wells. But Oloibiri was the first commercial oil discovery, 1956. Then by 1958, the first export. And at that time, before then it was palm oil. And in Port Harcourt, you had these palm oil depots for exporting palm oil. And those were the areas now that Shell used to export the first oil. Pipeline from Oloibiri, technology, very, very low technology at the time. Minimal, just to get it out.
Or even crude.
Yes. But now things have changed. A lot of things have developed. Pipelines are supposed to have been better secured than what we had at that time. In fact, the pipeline that took oil from Oloibiri to Port Harcourt was like on the surface. But then with time, pipelines had to be buried, 1 meter below the surface of the ground. I'm stressing this because of what has happened since to pipelines and evacuation of crude oil. Well, the oil industry has gone from refinery, the first refinery in Port Harcourt, built by BP, Shell, mid-60s, totally private sector, which was later, if you like, nationalized or taken over by NNPC. And since then, we've had other refineries, Warri, Kaduna, again, Port Harcourt. We've had Elemo Petrochemicals as a result of the industry, which is today a very thriving establishment. Exports of resins, petrochemical products, fertilizer apparently as well. So the industry has expanded into gas, LNG. We have gas supply to industries, liquefied natural gas export. So really a lot has happened since then.
Well, you were in charge of pipelines at one time.
Yes.
Yes, you were the general manager in
Yes.
charge of pipelines.
Yeah, pipeline.
What would you say has changed from the time you were running that aspect of Nigerian oil and now?
A lot. When the first multi-product pipelines were commissioned in 1979, 80, we had a deficit of trained hands because that was the first time we were having multi-product pipelines. Pipeline that will move diesel, petrol, kerosene in one pipeline.
Wow.
Before then, all we had was crude oil pipeline. The IOCs were already exporting crude oil. So it needed a special kind of skill. We were able to benefit from an American company that came and backed up some of our people. We now recruited a number of people both from outside and from within NNPC at the time. At the time, NNPC was only 2 years old, so we didn't really have a lot of people. But within a period of 2 years, we were able to recruit about 2,000 people, and we had expatriates, about 60 expatriates, and within another 3 years, we were able to send them away. They had, trained our people, backed them up in that particular kind of operation. Well, at that time, you could drive on the pipeline right-of-way. The pipeline right-of-way was like 25 meters wide. Mm-hmm. Your pipeline was in the middle of it. We didn't allow any farming. We didn't allow no encroachment. You could drive from Warri to Kaduna on the pipeline right-of-way. Pipeline is buried. And the practice there...
it's over the pipeline.
Sorry?
You mean you can drive over the pipeline?
No, pipeline is buried.
Yeah, it's buried, so you are driving over it.
Yes, you can. But of course, pipeline is like this. But you have right-of-way, 25 meters. So you are not really driving on it per se.
Yes.
But you could, because it was still, covered, at least 1 meter cover. And what happened was that we then decided that these pipelines had to be maintained frequently. Maintenance being you remove the weed and the shrubs maybe once a quarter regularly so that it is accessible. And during those years, we didn't have much problem with anybody stealing products or tapping into the pipeline because, it's you could see for miles from where you're standing. And we also used to have helicopter patrols, over that pipeline just to make sure that everything was okay. But over the years, it appears what has happened is that we have become a little bit sluggish in maintaining the right-of-way. So much of that right-of-way has been overtaken by bush. Some, in fact, you can say forest. And with that kind of situation, you lose control of what is in the pipeline. Yes. So, we have had occasions where tankers, smaller ones, will drive into those kind of places, tap into the pipeline, and take whatever they want to take and go off, and nobody would know because of the coverage, because of the brush that was there. It's not supposed to be so. I think because of that, we lost control
So
of.
nature conspires with the thief.
So we have lost control of the right of way, which means that today, even though we have about 5,000 kilometers of those pipelines, Warri to Kaduna, to all the way to Maiduguri, Kaduna all the way to Guzo, Port Harcourt all the way to Makurdi. Today, we hardly have half of that operational. Even half will be well, I'll be generous, yes, in saying half, because much of that is no longer in operation, which is why a lot of trucking of products now is happening from Lagos into the hinterland.
To all the
Those
parts
pipelines were supposed to remove all that no long distance trucking of petroleum products.
But
That was the
this pipeline, what was the original design when it comes to maintaining pipelines? Were they supposed to be there perpetually for 100 years or for 50 years, or there's a time frame by which, by the time you lay this pipeline, after some time, the pipelines are supposed to be replaced. What was the design?
Well, pipeline cannot be there in perpetuity. From time to time, you clean out the pipeline. There's a device called pigging. You sort of launch it, and it's like a brush. It goes all the way, flushes it. Over time, you will look at what you are getting from that. Mind you, you're getting crude oil has water in it, has brackish water in it, so you can start getting corrosion, in that internal, in the diameter, inside it. And you will begin to know when things are getting a little bit, when the pipeline is deteriorating. People will say it should last maybe 25, 30 years. It could be more, depending on the terrain, because you not only have the internal corrosion, you could also have the external corrosion, even though the pipeline is wrapped and buried. But the wrapping can deteriorate, and then you also have ingress of moisture, water moisture that can also cause the external corrosion of the pipe. So it depends on what you find. But you don't just hope that it will last forever.
We've seen a lot of reports about crude oil theft today, and it is estimated that we lose about $23 million a day. How did we get to this?
It's actually difficult to say. When you talk about crude oil now, what we have just discussed is the product pipelines.
Yes.
Yeah, which is across country, which can be stolen by anybody, whether in Borno State or in Benue State. The crude oil theft thing, much of our crude oil, of course, is in the Niger Delta. And my feeling is that when we had those Niger Delta protests, let me call them protests,
the militant era.
Militant era in the 1990s, I would say.
1990s, 2020s.
Yes, getting into 2020s. Yes, in 2020s.
Yaradua.
Yeah. There was a time that some expatriates were kidnapped. That was the first kidnapping episode, I would say, in Nigeria. And, they took ransom from them and all that. And what was it all about? It was about the Niger Delta people looking for equitable treatment, from the resources that they produce. I believe that probably was the beginning of it. People started thinking, well, if we're not getting enough from the government, this is in our land, we can
take advantage of
we
it.
can begin
help
to
ourselves.
do so, help ourselves. I would think so. But then when you talk about this industrial scale oil theft, I really don't know. I cannot even, comprehend what has happened there.
But it started while you were still active in NNPC.
Yeah.
And
Yes, yes.
because I know that even one time David West used to spoke about
bunkering.
Used to talk about illegal bunkering. That was
Bunkering.
the first time I heard of the word illegal bunkering.
In fact,
yeah.
the illegal bunkering thing was mainly products, petroleum products. It wasn't about the crude. Crude. Yeah. But all these things have started, developing. And if things are not controlled, they fester. I mean, people see the advantage in doing it, and then it becomes a full-blown industry.
Now, we have gained mastery of the skill, the engineering of oil, the engineering of crude, the engineering of all of these. Yet the area that we haven't mastered maybe is in the management of all of this. And we are in OPEC, sitting side by side with Saudi Arabia and all of the other countries that produce oil. We've risen to become the Secretary General of OPEC at different times and all of that. How come the success in, say, Saudi Arabia or Qatar or Brunei and all of that doesn't rub off on Nigeria when it comes to management of the oil asset?
Well, I can say that the advantage that those countries you've named have is that they're either monarchies running them or, monarchies. Saudi Arabia, UAE, Brunei. So decisions could be taken by monarchs, focused. In our own case, completely different. We're a complex country.
But we had military, we had heads of state. We had Gowon, we had Murtala Mohammed.
Yes.
All these were presiding over oil regimes.
Yes.
We had
Obasanjo.
We had Obasanjo. And then
Buhari.
We had Buhari after the short time of the democratic
Shagari, Second Republic.
Shagari time.
Yes.
And then we had Buhari, and then we have Babangida, and we know what happened. Those were years and years and years of military rule where, like a monarchy, they could take decisions, and they did take decisions on oil.
They
But
did.
it looked like the decisions, even as you show in the book, were very popular. Like even the issue of gas,
Yes.
oil and gas, was such that they were reneging on their own agreements. Rather than you had to come in and out of the gas industry because of militaries, and then they could not even account for some money. This $600 million escrow account that they wasted was supposed to be there, and then it was not there. So
Yes, the issue here, during the military regime, you would say that much of the infrastructure we have was built in that era. Whether it is the pipelines, the refineries, were all built during that regime. And it's as a result of what I've just said. They were like monarchs, if you like. They could take decisions. But what have we done post-1999, in terms of infrastructure? A lot of debates. Should you site it here? Should you do it here? At the end of the day, there has been quite a bit of politicization, I may say, or political interference in the running of our oil industry. Budget provision became an issue. Was NNPC getting enough funds to run its operations post-1999? No. Because we had to spread money, you can't just give everything to NNPC. They will ask, in the refineries will ask for, say, 100 million, and they will get like 50 million. You can't maintain. If the operator says, this is what I need, and you give the person less, he will do what he can with what you've given him. And these facilities deteriorate. And I can say that is what has happened to our refineries. In maybe 10 years or more after the first NNPC refinery in Warri, you didn't hear about turnaround maintenance. You didn't know it existed. Management did their job. They brought in workers from the Philippines, from Pakistan, to help them during that process.
What were they doing that and not turn around?
No, maintenance.
Just maintenance.
That's after 18 months, right? You need to turn around or maintain, shut the refinery down, strip it, and make sure overhaul, if you like to use that word. And of course, because management is limited, they are there only for operating and maintaining. But for this major one, they would have to bring in people from outside, to help them in a short period of time, so that it can be done quickly.
We didn't have adequate personnel to do that.
You wouldn't have people standing by waiting for 18 months in order for them to intervene. Right. Yeah. So that was the strategy. Very good strategy, and it worked. And then
what do you do now?
Well, I think we may come to that as I proceed. Okay. What I'm trying to say is that when that was happening, within the management of NNPC, not going up to minister or head of state, management was in control of that. So it went smoothly. All the plans went routine. 18 months, you bring in the people, they do the job and go. Nobody heard about turnaround maintenance.
But turnaround, it's not political.
Well, that is the issue. That is the issue.
So that they can come up with a new budget and new allocation and new corruption.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but to say that.
But a little far.
But to say that that it was no longer under the control of NNPC management. It now became something that had to go up to the minister level, if you like, head of state level even. And that was when we lost it. Turnaround maintenance was no longer routine. It became something, well, maybe, and whether it is properly done or not, over those years. I'm talking 2000, 2001, 2000. It's not something that started yesterday. When we said the refineries are down, it's not. It was a systemic, gradual process, over many years of politics, debate,
neglect.
Yes, that's what has happened.
You state that during the time of Marinho as MD of NNPC,
yes, that
the MD of NNPC was so powerful because the Minister of Oil, of Petroleum, as they called it, Muhammadu Buhari,
yes,
was a minister without a ministry.
Yes, indeed.
And there was no permanent secretary.
Indeed.
Of oil.
Indeed.
Of petroleum.
Indeed.
And so the MD, especially when Buhari went away on vacation, the MD became like the minister. He attended the Federal Executive Council and all of that. Is it the diminishing of the role of the MD that has created the politicization and therefore the corruption and the decline of oil in this country?
Well, You know, national oil companies started with NNOC.
Yes.
Nigeria National Oil Corporation.
Corporation. Okay.
We had that, and that's when I joined. We had the NNOC.
From Shell.
From Shell, yes. We had the NNOC, and we had the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. Now, over the years, NNOC did not really pick up the kind of speed that one expected. Well, being a new creation, being a government creation, it suffered the kind of, shall I call it, low speed mobilization of staff and equipment and resources. So people felt, look, we have the ministry that has been there for many years, and we have NNOC that is just bringing in personnel from the oil companies, because most of us came from the IOCs, Mobile, Gulf in those days, Shell. So why don't we now make sure we have a critical mass of trained personnel by merging the ministry with NNOC? That's how it became NNPC. That's how the ministry disappeared, right?
Became integrated into.
Became integrated. So even the regulator was now part of NNPC.
Regulator became regulated.
So that will have its challenges, as you can imagine. But of course, again, under the regime of General Buhari in 1984-85, they realized that that was a mistake. And so they went back to the ministry and NNPC. But by then, the regulatory function had really been damaged, I would say.
Yes.
And that was why the DPR at the time continued to call itself the,
regulator.
No, it was regulator. But in terms of autonomy, they didn't feel they had the autonomy, because a lot of things had come under the aegis of NNPC, under the control of NNPC. But of course, the DPR was then separated, but they never really picked up steam. And that is why, up to now, what the PIA has now done is really to give them the teeth that they needed. And what the PIA has done is to separate, to give them two agencies, the Commission for Upstream, the Authority for Midstream and Downstream. So I think things should be better now. The regulation should be much better than
I want to ask you a question about 2.8 billion, but I want you to quickly answer whether did you see anything forming around the time you were in office that people were gathering together in terms of a cabal to steal our crude and so on? Did you see it developing? It'll give you a sense of what kind of people are doing it. Up to today, we don't know who are these people. Nobody has been arrested.
You are talking about crude oil theft.
Yes, crude oil theft. Yes. Did you get any sense that is it government, private sector, private government, foreigners? Is there? Did you get a sense while you were in the industry, and you are still in the industry itself, because you have this your petroleum club, Lagos Petroleum Club, and so on. Yeah. Yes, it's gone. So what sense do you get about who are these shadowy figures?
When we're in service, we didn't see any massive stealing of oil. It was not a big issue. It was not. And I'm talking.
When it was small, what were you seeing? Did you see a pattern developing?
Well, if at all, we saw there was an incident and it's a small thing. I think Sapele, Jesse, where people were trying to steal products. They had drilled into the pipeline. There was an explosion. Many people died. I don't know whether you
Yeah, Jesse.
Well, that is the kind of thing. It was isolated cases for petroleum products, not crude oil theft on industrial.
When they bring the ship and then they wait,
I have
then
no.
you drill and
I've never had. I don't know. I can't claim to know what happens there, all right? But I can talk about what I know. That Jesse thing was an eye opener. That people have started doing things like this, and it could be quite devastating.
All right, it got to a level where the federal government had to resort to contracting the safety of pipelines to a former agitator, ex-militant, or Tompolo. When you saw that or you heard that story, as someone who has been in the industry, how did it come to you? Was it welcome development? Okay, fine, that's fine. Or it was, that could be a mistake. What was your mind?
We have the assets. We have had the assets for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. We have the security agencies. If the government, and I'm not in government, if the government felt that security agencies could do this, protect the assets, then they wouldn't need to go and look for a third party. So my feeling is that anybody who would stop this, then let them get, whether it's the devil or whoever he is, doesn't matter. If the government security agencies can't do it, and if somebody else can help them do it, then why not?
Some people say that it's a kind of surrender, that the government is supposed to be the one to secure us, why contract your own job to somebody else. It's a kind of surrender of your own responsibility.
Well, in the industry, there's a lot of outsourcing. So that can be an outsourcing, so long as you control what is going on.
Yeah, but the point there is...
I mean, the industry cannot have policemen and soldiers.
But in this case, it is seen as... Tompolo is not known to be an international professional who is trained in the security of pipelines in that context.
What is he securing?
Well, that's a question.
Yes. What is securing is to make sure that there's no interference with the facilities. The facilities belong to Shell, Mobil, Chevron. They are the ones maintaining the pipeline per se. This guy is just making sure that nobody interferes with the facilities. So you don't need international training to be able to do that. If you are able to patrol, monitor, what is happening on the surface. It's not what is happening, to the facilities.
This is a job that our Navy and police and all of that can do. Well, let us go to something you talked about, 2.8 billion.
Yes.
When it happened, it was first reported in Punch newspapers, and then Punch had to retract because I don't know what happened that time. But the genie has been left out of the bottle.
Yes.
And then you were trying to say that some people thought that some people wanted that story out because they thought that they wanted to get back at the NBN government and those people who in a sense rigged Awolowo out of the
that was the that was in the public domain.
Yeah,
I'm sure you.
We're small that time, but we
were small.
We're small that time, but we're watching. Students that time.
Yes. University of Lagos students came protesting.
Yes, you wrote it there.
And we were very scared.
And you were in the building?
I was in the building, yes. They surrounded.
They said they were going to burn down the building.
They wanted to burn down the building. 2.8 billion missing. Stolen it. So.
2.8 billion today is like 200 billion.
2.8 billion naira then was more like 3-point-something billion dollars.
Then, yes, because the naira was more than
The naira was more valuable.
At that time, yes.
So we are talking of about maybe like $10 billion.
You mean in today's money?
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe, but it wasn't missing. That's the comfort.
No, but the word missing itself was a very problematic word.
It was.
If it was not where it was, then it was missing.
Exactly.
It was not where it was supposed to be, but it was not where it was supposed to be.
No, it was. It was. It was an accounting statement misrepresented by Punch. I mean, and that.
No, but they said it was not in a particular account. They put that some people were using it to make profit, to get interest.
Well, that was the rumor, but in reality, it never happened.
I understand that was why Buhari was Minister of Petroleum
at the time, yes.
And that was the reason Buhari came up with Decree 4 and Decree 2, when he said the media, I will tamper with that. It was because he felt that the 2.8 billion issue happened under his watch. And he felt that the media was actually peddling something that was wrong. So it was not only that he wanted the media stopped, he wanted to revenge the media for what they did when he was head of Nigerian Oil.
Well, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know why Decree 4.
Yeah, that was the narrative. That was the narrative.
I wouldn't know.
And then they flushed all the management out, and then there was that part of it was not clear when you said that when you wrote that they said that the people in the management who were suspended before the Liquefied panel.
They were called back.
They were called back, but when they were suspended, there was an argument that there was those who were sent out were non-Igbos. Who made the decision? Why would they think that it was not? Was it Igbos who made the decision to flush all those people out of the?
Well, that is the issue. I mean, that was a government decision. Government decided who was to go on leave. But I mean, the good thing is that at the end of the day, everybody came back except.
I will go to our 2.8 billion. We got our 2.8 billion back.
I think it became clear that it wasn't missing, and that the Liquefied Tribunal, came to that conclusion.
There was the Ebony story, the Ebony Taisholari came, who said they had it in the box.
Yeah, when those rumors, you see, this is why the whole thing, was escalated, because activists like our revered, now gone to glory, Taisholari was among those who spoke, and there were others who were speaking at the time, and that was part of what now set fire to the whole.
There are two incidents in the book that are personal that I think you should talk about. One is Dick Tiger.
Yes.
Dick Tiger bears the same surname with you, and you guys were together in family, and people thought that you were the same people in Abba, the same family, but you're not the same family.
No, we're not that.
But you didn't say whether Dick Tiger taught you a little 1 or 2 things about how to box. He was a world champion.
He was a little older than I was.
Yeah, well, actually, I've taught you a little bit. I remember one day when Muhammad Ali visited Nigeria, we were coming from school around the race course. He came around, and there's so many small boys around him, and everybody wanted a piece of him. It was He was pretending as though he was having boxing match. Did you have anything like that with you?
No, we only respected him at the time because he was a local champion in our boxing.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't know that.
Time. He had not risen up to.
No. He hadn't risen to the.
You became his tenant in Surulere.
Yes.
When the wife was there.
Yes.
And there was that incident I wanted you to quickly to look at. You had a long walk from Ikoyi to Yaba.
Yes.
And then you had this problem with your leg. You just came in from abroad.
Yes.
And everybody thought you were going to die. I think your people were coming from a village thinking that somebody poisoned you because you took somebody's drug.
That was the rumor.
That was the rumor. And then you had to, one man in Jebula. You didn't tell us what kind of treatment he gave you.
No, I won't tell
because no doctors were not able to cure it.
Yes. Well, herbs. Period. Herbs. The old man will go into his, shall I call it farm, because he had a lot of shrubs around him. Pick what he wanted. What he didn't have, you go to Jebode to buy whatever it was, and then he will come, put everything together, put his gin. Apparently, gin is the one that will bring out all the things, and then he will put it in this small cup that you know about in the Niger Delta. You know that.
That's small glass. Take
you used to shot.
And he will bring it and he will drink it first. And then give me my own. That was all.
What was the idea of him drinking first when you were the one with the...
that I trust what he's giving me.
Okay. That's interesting.
Very interesting.
All right, we're about wrapping up now, but let me ask you, the world is transiting from fossil fuel to renewable energy and all of that. Nigeria at this time is still trying to prospect for oil in some trough. What is the future of our oil? All of this mix?
I have very strong views on that, and I've written a couple of articles, in that respect. Africa is contributing 3.5% of global emissions. And they want us to shut down our fossil fuel production, when that gives us an opportunity to develop our country.
That's the issue of the church rat and the only poison. Poison only communion. I won't go there. You don't want to go there. I don't go there. No, but that's what you just done.
I won't go there.
Are you sure you're not there already?
So my view is that we should just press on with our oil and gas.
Yes.
Britain just last month issued licenses, more licenses, North Sea, right? Exploration.
Guyana just started.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You see, look at what Exxon is
doing
there,
in Guyana. Yeah.
Right? Which other one? I was just reading this morning. ConocoPhillips is joining Qatar in LNG, in their new LNG project. So everybody, why should we now be Why should we? So, but we must pay attention to renewables because it's coming.
Yes.
And climate change is real. It's affecting the world. It's affecting us. Even this flood.
This flood we are seeing is
part of it.
Part of it, increased frequency, increased intensity. And that's
all right.
There's this issue. Why have we not taken advantage of gas? Look at what is going on in Europe.
Well, the issue is very simple.
Gas.
No, it's simple. During Obasanjo regime, there was the Olokola LNG.
Yes.
That was supposed to be another LNG investment. If we had that today going, it would have been fantastic.
Right. Yeah. I think we have to bring you back because there's so much about this oil, gas, and all of that we need to talk about. I need also enlighten Nigerians about. It's a good thing he has a peep. In fact, he has gone through your book.
This is your book.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you
we
very
need to
much.
still
Interesting.
dissect.
Thank you
We need
very
to still
much.
dissect aspects of the book because there's so many things from the preview I saw.
I see
A lot
that,
of things.
I see that the issue of the church rat and so on. I saw it like a case of a lion. The whole
we-
place
we-
can
we-
be. There's no rule when you go and kill your. But once you start eating your.
All right.
Your kill, there's peace.
Eh,
That's what they want.
all right, thank you so much.
Please, before we
God's will.
go, I'll have to say that I really came here downcast because we just lost our bishop.
Oh, yeah, it's really sad. The Anglican bishop of.
Yes, the bishop of Anglican Bishop of Lagos and Archbishop of
Yeah,
the
the story-
Ecclesiastical
yeah.
province was only 53 years
Yeah,
old.
it's really sad. It's really sad.
So
may,
really,
may his soul rest in peace.
Amen. Amen.
All right, thank you so much, Godswill Ihetu, former managing director, NLNG. Thank you very much for
Thank you
coming.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
right.
having me.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Now,